Ready. Welcome everybody to the 8th Chakra Company's Tuesday Night Call. Very creative name that Bonnie and I came up with. Since we have it every Tuesday night, we call it the Tuesday Night Call. We used to have all kinds of creative names for it, but now it really is a description to what we do.
I unmuted it,
huh?
but it still doesn't come up.
What do you should be able to hear us, Millie.
Okay.
This way.
Okay.
I have to get it on speakerphone. How do I get it on speakerphone?
Oh, let me mute her. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So tonight's call is about evolutionary changes, DNA activations, and crystalline bodies. Woo! And Bonnie and I are by no means experts on these subjects, and you soon will find that out. But as all our calls, we never know what's going to be said. We never know what is going to be happening. We just go with the flow. And so tonight is going to be very, very interesting. So as most of you know that have joined us, and if you're new to the call, just know that this product, the Tuesday Night Call, is our flagship product. And this is, tonight's call is part of, I think tonight is the 5th call or the 4th call in our series called Raising Your Frequency. Even though, gosh, honestly, whatever series we're in, you're going to raise your frequency just by listening and just by showing up, because that is what our work is all about. But this is our flagship product, and we're so passionate about it, and we always want to make sure that anybody can access this information. So of course we offer this program for free, and it is our gift to all of you, and we're very excited to be bringing it to you. And Bonnie and I co-founded the 8th Chakra Company with the purpose of helping us all to master what it is to be human. We kind of figured that if we needed to be more spiritual, we would have stayed in the spiritual world. But we are here in this physical plane to master what it is to be human. And so that's what we're doing. And this call is about taking everyday conversations and elevating them to a whole nother level. And so evolutionary changes, DNA activation, crystalline bodies, this may not be everyday conversations for the majority of the planetary inhabitants, but for those of you that are on this call, they certainly are. All right, Bonnie, why don't you tell us what's the importance of this call?
So excited. So we are really thrilled to be here with you all every Tuesday night. And here's what makes us really different. There's a couple of things that make us very different. One is that Lily and I work closely with the angelic realm, with Source Creator God, with the Akashic realm, and this is a really high frequency call. This is also what I would call kind of a very safe call. You are getting high frequency information. You are definitely getting healing information. You can trust the information that you are getting here from the perspective of it being really good for you. You're going to listen and you're going to feel better. And we love to tell you that right up front. So we're very clear that you are getting some great information here. You are also going to get some great wisdom. We actually get this information from the Akashic realm, from the angelic realm. We are kind of like the translators. We're interpreting information that comes through and then passing it along to you. So very high vibe, very high frequency. And you're definitely not going to find this anywhere else on the planet. And then, of course, there's always that added benefit that it's free. Go ahead, Lily, give us our intention, because we love to have an intention when we do that.
Yes, we do. And we haven't done this in a while, Bonnie, but I would love to invite everybody to create your own intention tonight. Intention really does pave the way for what you're going to receive out of this. So if you're going through something, like we just came out of a full moon that was like, kick your butt full moon. I know it kicked my butt, and I know that several people that were contacting me, sending me text message as I was like all passed out in my bed from this powerful moon. But at the same time, that is such a powerful moon for us to release what no longer serves us. The healing frequencies are incredible. So that's the kind of thing that we want to address here. So if you're moving through something right now, you might want to create an intention for yourself out of this call. How do evolutionary changes impact me? What do I need to know about DNA activations? Or show me something that I really need to know about crystalline bodies, etc. And maybe it could be something completely unrelated to the title of this program, because that's how our masters, teachers, and loved ones work. They will deliver for us any intention that we set forth. So everybody create an intention for you to get out of this call tonight. And for us, Bonnie and I are committed to exploring what we are moving through on an evolutionary basis as we kind of follow Mother Earth in her evolutionary process and all the changes that are happening, not only physically, but emotionally, psychologically, and psychically. We are all moving through a lot of evolutionary changes psychically. And then, of course, that it gets demonstrated in our DNA, because our DNA really is a biological and etheric reflection of everything that's happening on an evolutionary level. So we want to look at DNA activations. There's so much that is, I mean, forget about it. Again, we always joke about just Google any of the subjects that we talk about, and you're going to get tons of information, which is why Bonnie and I always teach you to access your own information, because you can't trust what you read out there. So we're going to take a look at DNA activations. What is that? We're going to clear up some myths about it, but mostly we're going to show you clues on how to access your own information so you can know for yourself what you need to know about DNA activations and crystalline bodies. And then, of course, I just want to remind everybody that before we start our call, Bonnie and I do open the Akashic Records for this community, meaning you. If you've registered for this call and you're listening to us live, or you're listening to the recording at a later date, this conversation is for you. The records that we open are for you, and the information that's coming through is exactly designed and created for you. It is your information. And that's, again, what is so exciting. Really fast, the first half of the call, we're going to be interacting. Bonnie and I will start off the conversation, and we'll open the doorways for you to raise your hand and participate. And then the second half of the call, we bring in information from the Akashic realm, and we also do some alchemy and some theta healing towards the end. So Bonnie, let's tell these beautiful people how to participate on this call.
So we absolutely love to have your input. Lily and I spent 3 or 4 hours together earlier today. We have lots of opportunity to talk. We're happy to talk your ear off, but we would much rather get questions from you, input from you. So what you're going to want to do is if you're on your computers, you're going to want to drag your mouse down towards the bottom, and then the black screen opens up, and that's where you can raise your hand so that we know you have a question, and we are happy to have you ask. And then if you are just not sure, not comfortable, you can always go down to the chat and click on the chat there. And let's see, there we go. Click on the chat and type in your question, because we are happy to take questions that way as well. I keep getting some feedback there. Okay.
Yeah, somebody's muted.
There you go. I think we might have gotten it. So we definitely want to hear from you. We will nag you every 5 or 10 minutes to remind you to ask a question. Hopefully you had a chance to take a look at that. I also, real quick, Lily, you kind of tapped on it, but I just want to kind of drive it home, is that these conversations that we are having are dynamic. That is another really cool feature of what we are doing, is that all of these, this healing, these activations, everything that you get, if you go back and you listen to it again tomorrow and Thursday and Friday, each time you listen to it, you're going to get a new layer of healing, a new layer of awareness, and your frequency is going to go up. That's how it is designed. So it's unlike anything else out there.
Yes.
So
and we actually only discovered that really recently, that these calls are dynamic. We didn't know that they were, but we were given that information, and it's so awesome to know that every time that you listen to these calls, that your frequency goes up, and therefore the downloads are different. I don't think that happens anywhere else, Bonnie.
Not to my knowing. So let's talk about evolutionary changes. Let's kind of take that one first. We talked last week about, Mother Earth's ascension, and that Earth is actually going through its own process of enlightenment. And so as beings on the planet, we are also going through that same process. We talked last week about the term ascension, and some people call it awakening. And basically what it is that we are all going up in frequency. And these new frequencies are coming onto the planet. There's things like radiance and more love and clarity and illumination frequencies, all sorts of things that are of course, they're words we know, but they're frequencies that are new here to the planet. But the way we might say that we see the evolutionary changes, because the difference is evolutionary changes are really about us, whereas last week we were talking about the planetary changes, which was really the Mother Earth. You know, the way we see these things is that we are going up in frequency and our bodies are actually shifting and changing. So I was telling Lily earlier, I remember the first time I heard this, that our bodies are becoming more crystalline. And I was like, that's really weird. Like if my heart gets more crystalline, how is it going to continue to pump blood and do what it needs to do? And I really did not understand it. I completely went into a lot of atheist energy and a lot of not understanding it. But what I have discovered is that we are talking about energy, and there are a lot of evolutionary changes, and these are energy based. So things are shifting and changing from an energy perspective right now, and they will eventually change from a more physical perspective. Is that how you would phrase it, Lily?
Yeah, definitely, because energy comes first. Everything is energy, but as we move up in our frequency, then the more material or the more physical aspects of our experience will shift as well, you know, because there are a lot of different levels to physicality. For example, a crystal is physical too. You can hold a crystal in your hands. Now, if our bodies become more crystalline, that just means that the molecules are shifting a little bit. That means we're not gonna look the same, but that's gonna take place over hundreds of years. Right now, what we need to be concerned about more is what the energetic shifts are that we're experiencing, because as we bring in these crystal energies, they're not gonna be expressed physically for a long, long, long time, but energetically, crystals allow us to process more information and to process information that's way beyond what our physical body can experience. So by having crystals, for example, in our eyes, so that means energetic crystals in our eyes, we're now able to see beyond what our physical eyes can see now. And we can experience that now in this moment, even without having physical crystal eyes. Does that make sense?
Actually, it was so cool as you were starting to talk about it. Suddenly, I was seeing how when I would do science experiments in high school, and they were talking about conducting electricity, that, you know, there were certain materials that did not conduct electricity nearly as well. And so I was seeing the crystals are actually going to be conducting electricity a whole lot more effectively. So that, and I was just like, oh, that's so cool.
Yes, yes. And information moves through the same waves that electricity moves. So because information is like electricity, it moves through those vias, you know. So yeah, so that's really, really cool. It just enables us to process information and to get information. And that's one of the things that allows us to access the Akashic realm, actually, because those lines of communication are coming in through crystal activations. They're coming through, allowing us to, it's like they're almost invisible. Like we talked about the airwaves, right? When we tune into music on a radio station, or when we're talking on the telephone, or even how you're hearing my voice right now, my voice is moving through airwaves. It's the same kind of thing. Crystals have crystal waves, and through those crystal waves, we are able to communicate thoughts, for example. So you're not hearing a voice, but you're hearing, quote unquote, a thought or a concept or anything that has to do with information, because information is not always communicated verbally. So that's what's the beautiful thing about how we're evolving into more of a crystalline based body. But as Bonnie said, right now it's an energetic crystalline body. Eventually, you know, we may experience more of the subtleness of crystal from a physical standpoint. But yeah, it's really, really exciting to know that we're evolving into beings that can actually transmit information at faster speeds than any computer that we have right now on this earth can do. That's really cool.
That is very cool. And, you know, we can actually see these evolutionary changes. If you're somebody who does not see energy or connect with energy in any way right now, totally okay. You can still see these changes. They're happening in ways where if you start looking at the conversations that people are having, so people having more conversations about eating well and exercising more. And there's a lot more conversations about, you know, I'm a spiritual person, and people that are connecting with the earth, and all these buzzwords that people are now talking about, if I use the term grounding, people understand what I mean. And if I tell them I read the Akashic Records, a couple of years ago, they were like, the what? And now they're like saying, oh yeah, I think it's really cool. I had my Akashic Records read. So you can see it in the way that people are communicating, paying more attention to what's happening socially and being more interactive. Those are also ways that you can see these evolutionary changes happening.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not just the circles we hang out with, because definitely when I'm moving out of the circles that I'm with, sometimes even if people have not heard a concept that I bring up, like Akashic Records, there's like, there's an openness about it now that wasn't there even 2 years ago. So we're definitely viewing and witnessing much more of a clearing, much more of an opening for these concepts, which in and of itself is evolution. So that is very, very cool. All right, well, let's get some calls. Come on, let's get some hands raised and ask some questions or come into the conversation. What do you know about DNA activation? What do you know about crystalline bodies? What do you know about evolutionary changes that we're talking about? We'd love to hear from you. And just as a reminder, if you scroll on the bottom of your screen and hit participants, you'll get a little window on the right-hand side with participants, and then there's a little place there to raise your hand. And so, or it might be on the bottom of your screen along with your chat, because some people have that. So I don't know if Zoom has probably changed, because our settings are different since we're hosts. But again, we would love to hear from you. And I always joke with Bonnie. I hear Bonnie's voice all the time. I would love to hear your voice. And Bonnie says the same thing to me.
Although we are happy to talk with each other. And we did have some interesting conversation, right, about DNA activations. I'm curious to see if anybody wants to just pop into the chat. If you've heard of a DNA activation, just pop it into the chat. Yes, I've heard of it. Yes is absolutely fine. If people can, it's also a great idea to see if they can actually find their chat button. Yeah. But I'd love to know if you have heard of them before. I do want to preface this. It doesn't even have to be this part of the conversation, but when Lily and I created this series, we literally got every title from our records. The information just came in, and we just laughed about it earlier because we don't question what the topics are. And then when we sat down and looked at, okay, so what are we going to be talking about? We're like, evolutionary changes, DNA activations, and crystalline bodies. What were we thinking? And so it's been really fun to see what our own awareness is and what information is going to come up. And, there's always a teaching in it for us as well. So Go ahead, Lily. You take over DNA activations.
Oh my gosh. Well, the whole thing about DNA activations is so scientific. And Bonnie said something to me earlier today about that. I'm the scientific one of the two of us or something. She didn't say it like that, but I'm like, what? No way. I am so not scientific. So when I think about DNA activations, I think about 23 sets of chromosomes, making it 46 chromosomes, and then each one has 2 strands. That means there's 92 strands of DNA in every cell. That's just kind of like the summary of it. But the whole thing about DNA activations, and you're going to get so many different concepts about it, because when people talk about DNA activations, they're really talking about different things. One of the ways that I learned about DNA activations through my theta healing training was that there are certain chromosomes within those 2 strands of DNA in every chromosome, in every cell, that is kind of dormant. So one of the chromosomes that's dormant, according to the theta healing teachings, is the youth and vitality chromosome. And it is located in the master cell in the pineal gland. So activating the pineal gland and activating the master cell in the mitochondria. Last week we did some mitochondria activation, which was totally unexpected. We didn't know that was coming. But that's part of activating those chromosomes that are kind of dormant in our DNA. And science actually says that 97% of our DNA is dormant, which is kind of a little bit crazy when you think about it. But then there's other schools of thought that will talk about that we not only have 2 strands of DNA, but that there's actually 10 additional strands of DNA that are hidden that science doesn't even know about. And these 10 additional strands of DNA is what a lot of, when you hear about DNA activations, is what's being activated. And these additional 10 strands of DNA is what brings us up into, it actually upgrades our physical vehicle to be able to receive more light, to activate the heart chakra, to be able to bring in intuitive skills that we're not using, or superpowers, like I like to call them. You know, the ability to activate all our sentient, our audience, you know, our clairsentience, clairaudience, claircognizance, all of those, telepathy, all of those kinds of senses that we are not using. And I've mentioned before about, there's an amazing program on Netflix called The Pyramid Code. And it goes into talking about some of this information with the DNA strands that haven't been activated, and how we literally have over 160 senses and we only use 5. And those other additional senses, okay, so 155 additional senses could be activated through those additional strands of DNA being activated. So that's just kind of like to give you the basis of it. You know, we're here today really in this call to find out, what do our masters, teachers, and loved ones have to say about all that confusing information, because I'm just as confused about it as all of you probably are. So that's my duty on DNA activation, Bonnie.
And then what, I don't know, those of you who have listened to, yeah, I'm going to talk about this, have heard Lily talk about DNA activations before. And it was literally, okay, I'm getting a message that I'm now muted. I'm like, okay.
No, you're not muted.
That's a message for me. That, you know, when Lily and I were talking about it today, I said, you know, I've heard you talk about DNA activations over and over again. And it actually, this was the very first time that she talked about it, that it suddenly clicked for me that, you know, we can talk about activations from an energy standpoint as well as from a physical. And so it just made complete sense. I absolutely do admit that I say that Lily is more scientific than I am, because she goes in and she really brings out information regarding the molecules, the mitochondria. I don't think I have ever talked about the mitochondria in any of my information, but that's what makes us so very cool to work with, you know, because we have 2 very different perspectives. Right now, I'm actually getting that information that you're right about the DNA activations, that it's not even really something that we need to think about. And I'm actually getting like the specific word to worry about, that it's like everything is in divine order and will happen as it needs to. And so for those of you who may say, oh man, I need to go get my DNA activated, the information that I'm getting now about it is that you're good.
It's true, it really is, because your DNA will be activated, whatever strands need to be activated or whatever chromosomes need to be activated as your frequency goes up, directed by source and directed by your essence. And so if that is to happen, then your essence will guide you to someone that can help facilitate that for you and witness it with you, which that's really important. When we witness things, when we actually witness, and that's what we do in healings, is we're creating constructs, and we're witnessing the download of creative and healing frequencies, but we're clear that we're not actually creating those frequencies. We're witnessing for our client, and source is sending them to us, and we're being utilized as a vehicle to bring forth those healing frequencies. It's the same thing with DNA activations. But you know, what Bonnie and I always talk about is the importance of you accessing your own information, because there's a lot, again, if you go on Google and you look up DNA activations, there's tons of people that claim that they can activate your DNA. And in fact, there's all kinds of videos that you can access that will take you through some guided DNA activation and will tell you. And so you got to really be careful about where you're going for that information, because not all the information that's out there is accurate, and some of it might even not be beneficial to you and might put you in a place of karma and and put you in a place that's not necessarily what's in your best and highest interest. But again, everything is in divine order. And so if that happens to you, you'll move through it. But it's always really good to be in the awareness of what you're looking for and what you need. And that's the importance of accessing your own information, so that you're not going somewhere to get a DNA activation from someone that's also downloading some foreign energy that you don't need. And so it's very, very important for you to be aware of all of that.
Well said, Lily. That is absolutely true. I say that to people all the time, but I saw something on YouTube, or there was this really cool thing that somebody sent me, and I said, just please check with your own information and see if that's what you're supposed to be doing next. And that's really important. So
yeah, and everything is a teaching anyway, so you can't go wrong. You can't get it wrong. You're going to end up in the perfect place for you every single time, because you cannot get it wrong.
Absolutely. So another thing that Lily and I discovered today, this was just a great afternoon of us making connections, was sometimes when we are talking about things, we have stumbled into this place of having to describe vanilla ice cream. Is that a great way we can say that, is that we are trying to describe vanilla ice cream, or explain to somebody the scent of a rose. And I just challenge you to throw in a description in the group chat about how you would describe to somebody vanilla ice cream, what it tastes like. And so we often have this thing going on with our information, like how do we actually translate this so people can understand more clearly about what we are doing? So interesting, huh?
So I'm seeing some people chatting about the Pyramid Code. I definitely recommend that you watch it. It's an amazing program. Something else that I would love to recommend that helps to understand about some of the concepts of DNA activation and what science is doing is an author by the name of Bruce Lipton. He's a really amazing author that is doing a lot of work he's a stem cell biologist, but he's kind of like on the forefront of the new science called epigenetics. And so he's doing a lot of research and discoveries that are bridging quantum physics with cell biology and the communication of DNA through mind and matter. Very, very interesting. And that's how I see DNA for myself, is really just like the housing of information and programming for as we move. And it's connected energetically with the Akashic realm, and it's connected energetically with the chakra system and the information that's coming through from the chakra system, from all the different dimensions that we're constantly being in communication with. It's connected with all the memories associated with our lifetimes and our soul. So there's a lot of that information is stored in there, either physically in the genes through molecules, or energetically, which is also a molecular level as well. It's just different structure. So it's just really, it's so interesting and exciting to me to see the evolution that we are having as a collective in understanding how to use DNA, but also because DNA is impacted by us. The way that we think, the way that we speak is impacted because it's all energy and frequency. So that's one of the things that they're discovering, is that our DNA is actually subject and susceptible to influence by us. That's how we get to be creators, and that's how we get to shift our agreements and move through the changes and the transformation. That's how we can do transformation. So it's important to know that the DNA, we actually can shift our own DNA through our thoughts and through our words. Very, very important for us to be aware of.
Absolutely. And that is definitely more consciousness that we are bringing to ourselves and us, and our understanding that we have more abilities to connect and heal and resolve things for ourselves than we actually understand that we have ever had access to before. So we did talk a little bit about the crystalline bodies. I want to give you another opportunity to ask a question or make a comment. We definitely are going to be moving into the wisdom in just a moment, but the aspect of the crystalline bodies that we just want to know about now is that we are becoming more energetically crystalline. If you could see energy and you were to look at anybody who is on these calls, you would see a lot more crystals in their bodies. And wasn't there did you see crystals going in somewhere today, or am I confusing this with something
No,
else?
yeah, I did. We saw them when we opened the records. We started seeing some crystals coming through on the rainbow colors and the purples.
Yeah, so there are, anytime you are listening to one of our calls, you are getting information. You have had crystal activations. That means your body is more crystalline than it was a few years ago. So that's a good thing.
Very good thing. All right, guys, this is your last chance to raise your hand and ask a question or say something that you want to share with our audience. We have a lot of shy people on these calls, Bonnie.
Yeah, we do. I think it might be just the energies coming off of the full moon. That was certainly a whopper. You have talked about that already. But I'm feeling that a little bit, so I don't blame them.
Yeah, I don't either. All right. Well, you can always ask us questions or chat with us on the 8th Chakra community on Facebook. It's an open forum for us to share ideas and ask questions and all of that. So make sure that you do join that community. And all right. Well, if there's no questions, let's go ahead and jump into the wisdom. There's a lot of information coming through right now, and I'm already starting to see a download coming through, and it's right there along those tails of that purple with the crystals. I'm definitely seeing a very huge download of purple frequencies with very, very tiny, small quartz crystals coming through for us. And you were talking about clarity. That's what those quartz crystals allow us to have, is clarity. And so for those of you that may be feeling confused or like, oh my God, this is just too much for me to absorb, or I don't think I want to know anything about DNA activations or crystalline bodies, I don't think I need that information. Maybe it's not even useful for me. That's okay. What we're receiving, these frequencies will help us to have more clarity in terms of what is the level of awareness that we need to have. It's always really nice to know the level of awareness that we need so that we can move into that place. So, and that's Jazzy.
And the dog agrees with you. I love it when she does that. It's just like, okay, can we possibly put her in a muzzle? Anyway, I absolutely love that. So I do have a dog, and there must be a reason why she's busy talking. So let's see. I actually want to make sure we do it this way. Okay. So yeah, this is really interesting what is coming through at the moment, because there is some information that is coming through. Somebody must be asking this question about our animals and other beings on the planet, and it is absolutely the case for everyone who is here on a planet, whether you are in a dog body or a dolphin body. All of these things apply to all of us. And it's interesting because as I was starting, okay, so what am I going to be talking about? And I felt like there was a whole lot of quiet and just stillness. And then it's like, oh, we have clarity around what is happening here on the planet, and some awareness and understanding that these are really subtle shifts. And we tend to think that these are things that are happening in big leaps and bounds. And we tend to think that, oh my gosh, it's a full moon. Oh my goodness, it was all I could do to stand it. That these are just really actually very subtle shifts, very small changes that are happening. And it is all divinely designed to go exactly as it is. As it is happening. And while we might feel like it is completely crazy with what is going on, it is designed in it's like little baby increments. So showing me like a little tiny creature is just a little bit, a little bit, a little bit, a little bit. And all of these frequencies that are coming into the planet are coming in with the grounding information to it and integration information included in it. And it has been designed to be a very calm, easy switch. Now, the question would be, okay, so if that's the case, then why in the world does it not look like that? And the reason why it doesn't look like that on the planet is because we are swimming through these really low frequencies. And so the analogy that they're giving me, it might have even been the same analogy they gave me last week, is swimming through muck. And we are swimming through, it's like I'm in a pool or swimming in a pond that is filled with loads of green algae, and it's not stuff that's going to kill me, right? It's just stuff that I think is kind of gross and I don't want to swim in. But we are swimming through these things that are really low frequencies, and we are still moving through it, and we are still being provided for as we move through this process. But there is still the really yucky stuff to have to go through. And so these low frequencies, the anger that we are seeing around, and the unconsciousness, and the jealousy, and the shame, and the fear, and the pain, that is a really big one that we are seeing all over the planet. Pain. And we all know that when we are personally in pain, that we find it really difficult to have enough patience, enough love, enough awareness, enough understanding for what we're going through. They're giving me the analogy of the last time I had a headache, and it was all I could do to sort of get through my day, because it was so easy to focus on the pain. It was so easy to focus on that and not focus on what the end goal was, that, oh, this isn't going to last forever. This is going to end. You know, most of us have that experience of a really wicked headache, and we are, you know, moving to the medicine chest to grab whatever our preferred cure is, and taking that so that we can move around in our day. And this is, you know, they're giving me the message that this is the same kind of thing, that we are kind of used to reaching for whatever is the quickest, fastest, easiest answer for whatever ails us. And so we are eagerly looking for the next answer. Like, oh, we're having this problem in politics, we need an answer. Oh, we're having this problem in the environments, we need this answer. Oh, we're having this problem with any other subject, and it's just like, let's get an answer, let's get an answer. And instead, they want us to know that these things are moving at the exact pace that they're supposed to be moving at, and we are moving through them so that we are in the least amount of fear, or the least amount of pain, the least amount of trauma that we have to go through. Now our process is to trust just a little bit more, to know that what we are going through is exactly happening the way it's supposed to, that this actually is a big design. They're showing me this picture of somebody taking a big ball of spaghetti with lots of sauce on it and just tossing it against the wall. That we tend to think that that is actually what is happening, that things are very random, that there is no reason for how things are unfolding, that the big man upstairs is just kind of making this stuff up as he is going along. When in fact, that there have been many planets that have gone through the same process, and we are not the first, even though we feel like it. We are not the first planet to go through this, and we are not the first beings to go through this. And so we are very safe. We are very taken care of. Everything is moving along exactly as it was planned. We just have to trust a little bit more. Yes, I'm hearing, yes, we know it is not an easy process to trust that the world is not going to fall apart because there are water bottles everywhere. I love that example that we talk about, that the earth is busy figuring out her own solutions to the problems we have. There is not a problem if, you know, something happens in our world that we don't understand. there is a big picture. There is a bigger point of view. And even though we don't always understand it or can't always explain it in a way that satisfies us or makes sense to us, satisfying is a really important word here. They're like bold, bold, bold. Satisfies us because we are looking for an answer that actually fits into our paradigm. It's like, this is a really funny analogy that they're giving me. It is like they're showing me like two people sitting on a sofa and the dog coming in and squeezing their butt around like this, like backing their butt in to like squeeze between two people. That it's a very funny analogy that we are actually, it is working out exactly as it's supposed to. That got me so distracted with the analogy. I'm like, and where was I going with this? That we are working through this exactly as we are supposed to be working through it, that there isn't something that is happening like it's not supposed to. And we just want to trust more and be okay with what shows up for us, to know that everything is happening exactly as it's supposed to. And the more we can do that, the better we will feel. And the part about us being satisfied is that this is not about us feeling satisfied. This is not about us getting our way. This is not about us, having everything end in the manner we're accustomed to. This is not about us, getting to the end of the movie and seeing the couple walk off hand in hand. Not that they're not going to end up together, but there might be just a whole lot more to it that we don't understand. So I really want all of us to take a deep breath in and to trust that we are getting exactly what we need as we need it, that you are getting all the crystal activations that you need, that you're getting all the healing that you need, that every time you turn around, there is somebody there to give you what you need. And it's just a little more trust and a little more understanding for it. So thanks, Lily.
Wow. Well, as you're talking, I'm literally seeing the pineal gland of everyone on this call, whether you're listening to live or this recording. I'm seeing literally a light around the pineal gland, and I am witnessing the master cell. So something is going on. We are receiving some kind of activation in the master cell of our pineal gland, and it feels really, really nice. And I'm seeing the purple light that's coming through with the quartz crystal frequencies. I'm actually seeing the little quartz crystals. They're very tiny. They're, I don't know, like a pinhead. They're very, very tiny. And they're moving through, and I'm actually now seeing them coming through the pineal gland. So this feels really, really nice. And I think what I'm really actually seeing is what I talked about earlier, the youth and vitality chromosome being activated. So it feels, wow. So definitely some activation going on right now in the pineal gland for everyone here. This feels really, really just absolutely beautiful. And as Bonnie was talking about, everything is as it should be. The words really vibrate for me that it's so easy to think that we're somehow doing something wrong or on the wrong path. I mean, one of the biggest questions that I get all the time is, am I on the right path? Am I on the right path? Am I on the path I'm supposed to be on? And the answer is always yes, yes, yes. And so now I'm getting pictures of the DNA, and there's like a little bit of like going back and forth. There's messages coming through from a lot of different places. And again, I want to use the analogy that Bonnie used earlier about how do we explain what vanilla ice cream tastes like. It's really difficult to explain that. And it's really difficult to explain what the scent of a rose is. And that's how I'm experiencing all these messages that are coming through, and they're coming through from various angles. So calling in the clarity for that. Okay, so they're bringing me back to the DNA. They really, really want us to understand the power that we have with our DNA and understanding how DNA influences our lives and how it plays such a huge role in our lives. So they really want us to understand this. And so they're showing me literally the strands of DNA, which most of us are familiar with what a strand of DNA looks like. And as these helixes are moving, they're showing me how information moves through there. And they're showing me now also those little crystalline that Bonnie was seeing earlier. Wow. They're literally showing me, and now I'm seeing the purple light again. Again, you know, this information is just moving so fast, I can't even keep up with it. But the purple light that I was seeing coming in through the pineal gland, now they're showing it to me on the actual DNA strand of every cell in our body. So they're showing me how these frequencies that are coming through for us are activating in the master cell, the mitochondria, and in the master cell. Wow. Activating chromosomes, but it is also moving through every chromosome and every strand of DNA in every cell in our body. So they're showing me the purple frequencies on the DNA strands. Whew. And I'm also seeing the little crystals, the little quartz crystals that I was seeing kind of riding the wave of the purple frequencies. I'm seeing them literally on the DNA strands. Wow. This is information. This is information that is moving through our energetic field, but it is also moving on a molecular level at the DNA level. That's opening something up for us. Okay, so if all information that we receive, that we witness, that we hear, that we see, that we feel, that we interact with, moves through our energetic field and influences the structure of our DNA, that means that the structure of our DNA is always moving dynamically. That's what they want us to know. This is the message they really want us to understand today, is that our DNA is dynamic. It is not true that 97% of our DNA is dormant. That is not true. Wow. There's so many untruths in what we call reality, and they are wanting us to be clear that as we raise our frequency, we will become more and more clear about what is truth and what is not truth. All our DNA is as active as it is supposed to be. Just because it is not active in the sense that we are accessing the information in that DNA does not mean that it's not active. So there's a distinction here. If we are not accessing, for example, our telepathic powers, that does not mean that the DNA chromosome or the DNA strand that would be considered inactive or not even visible is in fact inactive or invisible. All that means is that we are not able to have access to it physically. Our soul actually has access to all the information that is available that we have been accumulating from one lifetime to another through the experiences that our soul has moved through. That doesn't go away. That information moves with us from one lifetime to another. Whether we're having a lifetime in this planet or on another planet, in another star system, all of us have moved through lifetimes in other planets and in other star systems. And all that information gets accumulated and gets carried through our DNA from an energetic standpoint. So the DNA has an energetic component, like a soul component, if you will. Just like our body has a soul component and a physical component, our DNA as well has a reflective version of it in the soul plane, let's call it that, because there's not a word for it. There really is not a word to express what is that aspect of our DNA that is reflective of what our soul experiences are bringing forth. But what I can tell you right now is that we are receiving some clarity around that. And Bonnie said something about we need to trust that we are exactly where we are supposed to be, and that we are receiving access to the information just as we are supposed to, in accordance to our frequency and in accordance to what our soul is guiding us to. And it's the same thing with all the information that is moving through our DNA. The important thing is to understand that we are being guided, always being guided by source, always being guided by our higher self, by our essence, so that we're moving through this information in the way that we're supposed to, in the way that it was designed by our soul in conjunction with source. So it's all moving really, really great. And they're telling us that right now, this activation that we're receiving within our DNA strands is going to allow us to access more and more of those intuitive skills. that's what's really next for all of us that are in this community, is really to be able to access more and more of the information, the powers, what I call the superpowers. That is our ability to feel, our ability to see, our ability to heal beyond what's physical. And as these crystalline energies come through, they literally are going into the energetic field of our skin so that we can feel more from a clairsentient standpoint. And those channels of clairsentience are not just in the skin, they're actually in different parts of our body, and they're housed in the energetic chromosomes of our DNA. So that's like really, really cool to understand that. Same thing with our clairvoyance. You know, our clairvoyance originates in our third eye, but we actually have clairvoyance channels in other parts of our body. And that is determined by our soul, where those points are. There are some general points that we can talk about in regards to that. But we can activate our clairvoyance not just through our third eye, but through other channels that are associated with the clairvoyance. And one of those channels is actually associated with our heart. When our heart is activated and connected with in a powerful, majestic way, they want me to use the word majestic. I'm not sure why, but the majestic is the word that is here for us to connect the channels between our heart and our third eye. This allows us to have a clairvoyance that is very heart-centered, very heart-connected, that brings love into what we're seeing clairvoyantly, so that we can actually see through the eyes of our soul and see through the eyes of Source. This is really, really important. So just the way I described those last two channels, we also have claircognizance. We have channels to claircognizance in our skin. That's what they're showing me right now. We actually have claircognizant channels in our skin. We have claircognizant channels in our olfactory senses. So claircognizance actually comes through many, many channels. And so they're describing right now this purple frequencies that are coming through the DNA and the little quartz crystals that I'm seeing on the strands. This is helping us to activate all the channels for our clairs. And it is helping us to raise our frequency another notch wherever we each are in that place, so that we can have more access to the information, especially the claircognizant channels, which are throughout the entire energetic field. Wow. Bonnie, now I'm seeing those rainbow frequencies that you were seeing just before we got on our call.
Yeah.
Those rainbow frequencies are amazing because they really are there to soothe us and to help us understand that we are in the right place. And they're very calming rainbow frequencies and very healing. And they are also very compassionate. And this is one of the things that is important for us to have really as we move through all these changes, is to be able to be compassionate with ourselves. Because we tend to resist sometimes when we're moving in a transformational way. We tend to resist it because of unworthiness. This last full moon really did a major job on moving unworthiness from the collective. And so we are all in a much, much higher state of awareness around the worth of who we are and the oneness of who we are with Source and with all of creation. So this rainbow frequencies that Bonnie saw before we got on the call, and just as we were getting on the call, are coming through to help us with that. The compassion frequency is also very, very bright right now coming through for us. Wow. So some of you might be experiencing some tingling sensation. I'm still feeling the pineal activation going on, so that feels very, very strong. And they're telling us that these frequencies are going to come through for us for the next 6 hours. Very, very powerful frequencies coming in to assist us in whatever DNA activation, because it's different for all of us. Whatever DNA activation, what they're calling dormant DNA or dormant chromosomes are being activated. It's all a play of words, but we are definitely getting an activation and an upgrade to our DNA system, which feels really, really powerful and very sweet. I'm actually really present to the word sweetness and how it's helping us all to understand ourselves and understand each other more. And that's, I think, where the compassion frequency is coming through. Whew. Wow. The other thing that they want us to understand is that we have the ability to influence how our DNA moves. And we brought it up earlier in the call about the words that we use and the thoughts that we speak. But we are processing energy and creating energy even when we're not speaking and even when we're not thinking. Now, the thinking part and the speaking part is a lot easier for us to control. Certainly, if I speak language that is painful, or I speak language that creates pain or that creates harm, certainly I can see where the repercussion of that could be in my DNA, because it will literally darken a DNA strand. Whereas if I speak about light and love, it's going to bring light into those DNA strands. So we literally have the ability through our thoughts and in our words to shift and transform the DNA that is in our bodies. And if our DNA is a reflection somehow of our soul and where we are going, this becomes very, very, very important for our evolutionary process as we're moving through the evolution that we are moving through on this planet, because we've moved through evolutionary stages on other planets. This one is really, really special because of the duality, circumstance of this planet. It is allowing us to become that much more powerful creators, because there's so much more of that muck to go through. Like Bonnie was talking about that muck. We have so much more muck to go through on this planet. It is showing us how we are so much more powerful creators. So the last thing that they want to say about that is that just as our words and our thoughts are influencing our DNA, the very experience that we are as beings, how we are being with each other, how we are being with ourselves, even without thought and even without word, is very much influencing the evolution of our DNA and how it impacts us and how we're moving along. So very important to stay focused on that. And these rainbow frequencies are helping us to understand these concepts, and the clarity and the quartz, the white quartz that's coming through, the clear quartz, is helping us to understand these concepts. So if any of you are feeling any kind of level of confusion with this conversation, you're not alone. I'm sure that Bonnie's experiencing it along with me as well, as we're getting this information at such high speeds. What they're saying is that when we all wake up in the morning, we're going to have so much more clarity about this. And they've never said that before. So I'm really, really going to trust that even though I'm confused right now, in the morning, I'm going to get it. And so will all of you. Woo!
Awesome. Awesome. So I want to share one thing that I got when Lily was talking was the DNA strand. When the violet was, the purple light, the violet light was coming through it. Some of what it was doing was actually moving those low frequencies, the foreign energy out of each one of the areas of the DNA strand. So it was really cool. It was like cleaning it all up, and running violet flame through that is an awesome way to clean up really low frequencies. You must purchase the Essential Chakra Guide and Activation Series. I just want to share with you that when you are moving through this process of evolutionary change, that one of the steps towards moving to enlightenment is to have your chakras, your chakras dissolve, and your chakra information actually gets held into little boxes in your body. You actually start holding that information in your physical body. One of the ways that this happens is by you constantly cleaning and clearing and balancing and replacing your chakras. It is an added bonus that this happens on the process, on the way to enlightenment. As Lily was talking, I was like, oh my God, look at that. We absolutely want to stress that this is a really important concept. It is $249. We understand that that's not easy for everybody to swing, but it is part of the process of healing what is there. There's a ton of muck in your chakras. You want to clean them out. We would have a ton of people and giving testimonials if we had the time. We don't. Definitely take a look on our website, get the information, just check it out. Explore it as a possibility, leave it open. Next week, we are going to be talking about alchemy, key codes, and healing. For those of you who have heard us talk about key codes and and alchemy, and you want to know more about it, you want to tune in. It is going to be an amazing night of healing. It's going to be zip, zap, zoom. That's how they're like, the information that is going to be coming in is going to be absolutely amazing. Of course, if you can't attend in person, you know that you can absolutely listen to it in a replay, and it is just as good the second or third time around as it was the first. So let's see what else. We do have an Ascension program that is going to be happening, Ascension and Healing. It is a program that we're doing that is all about healing. Whether you understand Ascension or you know everything about it, come for the 90 minutes of healing, because it is going to be absolutely amazing. That's another link that you can find on our Facebook page. We would be so excited to have you there. What is that? Is that next Friday?
That is next Friday, yes.
Wow, look at the time clock.
Yes, indeed.
And I also see that it is 8:30, so we want to let you guys go. We want to thank you so much for...
We love you. We love you. Yes, we love you. Thank you so much. Have a great week, everyone.